first game I think we all want to talk about is Kansas City and Buffalo, just an all-time quarterback duel shootout between Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen. Chiefs win 42-36. And the time I'm introing this game and queuing it up, Patrick Mahomes tied the game up in 13 seconds. And that was just so insane. I think a lot of people coming out of this game, it's all about the overtime rules, how Josh Allen didn't get a say into overtime, but just those final few minutes, just what a crazy stretch, whether it be Gabe Davis turning into just Jerry Rice all of a sudden with the 4 touchdowns, over 200 yards, Patrick Mahomes doing Patrick Mahomes things. And Brian, we'll start off with you. This game to me has to rank, and as a Saints fan, I've seen a lot of these kind of thrillers up close, whether it be the Minnesota Miracle, the no call. I kind of see these little divisional round thrillers up close, but this one to me ranks probably number one. If you at least, I know recency bias, but it's up there.
Yeah, well, I mean, this is the great thing about being a Giants fan. The Giants, their season's kind of over, like, before all this. Like, I couldn't imagine being a Bills fan or a Chiefs fan and having to watch that game. It must have been so stressful. I mean, I was even stressed just watching it just as a fan. So it was a crazy game. Obviously one of the best. I mean, the last 2 minutes of regulation alone, there were three lead changes, 3 touchdowns. And then obviously you have the game go to overtime. And, I was watching the Bucks and the Rams early in the game and early in the day. And I was like, I believe that was the craziest game I was going to see, but then the Bills and the Chiefs topped it. And watching those 2 QBs, I think we can agree that, Josh Allen and Mahomes, that's going to be a great QB duo in the AFC for years to come, obviously. And even though the Chiefs came out on the top, you have to give credit to Josh Allen. Josh Allen won the game twice. He led 2 game-winning drives for the Chiefs, or for the Bills, excuse me. And still the Chiefs pull it out. I mean, 13 seconds left. And somehow Patrick, that's not enough time. That's enough time for Patrick Mahomes to just lead them into field goal range. I mean, what else can you say? I mean, Lou, you can step in if you want, but I'm just still blown away how good that game was.
I would say the one complaint would be that game was only a divisional game. I feel like you'd want Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes going against each other in the conference championship, because like you said, like those feel like the top 2 guys in the AFC. They might be the top 2 guys in the NFL. And it certainly feels like, the second coming of the Brady-Manning rivalry in the playoffs, if that's what we're getting now, back-to-back matchups between those 2. But I just can't help but feel bad for Josh Allen as someone that's kind of, like you said, Brian, Giants haven't been in the playoffs in a long time. So kind of taking on the Bills as like my team to root for when they're in the playoffs. I feel like they're always a fun team to root for. I've always loved their offense. And it stung so much because watching the Bills this year never felt like they really got things going. But then they got into the playoffs and it was like, holy crap, this is the team I've been waiting to see all year. That game against the Patriots where their offense was just so unstoppable. And then here again, it looked like with 13 seconds left, they were going to be able to move on. And it's just something about Kansas City, man. There's something over there. I don't know. I don't know what it is, but I don't know how you stop them because they're just so ridiculous.
Patrick Mahomes he's inevitable. I mean, he's just so good. I mean, like anyone because I know like there was going into this year, or as this year went on, people were like, oh, is Patrick Mahomes really the best? I think it's just when you kind of get used to him just throwing, a billion touchdowns and yards, especially early in the season when the team was like 4-4, everyone was like, what's wrong with the Chiefs? What's wrong with Patrick Mahomes? And then he 13 seconds drives right down the field in 2 plays. You're like, okay, like he is still the best quarterback in all of football, but you got to feel for Josh Allen. I mean, 4 touchdowns, all to Gabe Davis, 330 yards, really a perfect game for him. Perfect game for Patrick Mahomes. I mean, both of these quarterbacks, it was so fun to watch. And that's why football, the emotion gets high and you can be on the highest highs. And then it's just a tragedy in some moments that Josh Allen plays this type of game. This Bills offense plays this type of game and they can't move on in the playoffs. And Lou, you said it, like I felt like this Bills team was on that perfect storm. Like they didn't play their best football, especially offensively, until these last few weeks. They hit their stride, and usually those teams that hit their stride, they usually go really deep into the playoff Super Bowl run. This team just gets stymied by Patrick Mahomes and company, and it's just, man, I feel bad for Bills fans. I've been there where your team goes back and forth at the end, and you feel like every time you score score, you're like, oh, that was too soon. That was too soon. Like when Tyreek Hill had like that 70-yard touchdown, he just ran through everybody. I think they gave the Bills like a minute 10 left. And I was like, that's way too much time. I was like, the Bills are going to win this game. And then 13 seconds, I was joking with one of my buddies. I was like, I don't know. I think this may be too much time. And I was like, he's like, you're serious? I was like, no. I was like, there's no way. I mean, Patrick Mahomes is good, not that good. And then he did it. I was like, I was just speechless. I was like, oh my God. It was just, it was one of those moments where just Patrick Mahomes just put everything down and was like, I'm the best.
I guess, yeah. I mean, he really came to play, and so did Josh Allen.
Both
But
did,
I don't think we can't. I feel like we're not giving enough credit to Gabriel Davis and what he did.
Yeah.
He had, I feel like you can call this one of the best playoff games of receiver ever. He had 8 catches, 201 yards, and all 4 touchdowns for the Bills. It was just crazy watching it. I was watching in my living room, and the Bills kept scoring, and we're like, oh my God, it's Gabriel Davis again. So, I mean, we can't gloss over that. Gabriel Davis had one heck of a game. You got to give credit to him and, the whole Bills offense too. And the Bills, I'm still wrapped up on the 13 seconds and how the Chiefs somehow just got back into field goal range. How is 13 seconds enough time for Patrick Mahomes? I mean, the defense for the Bills, I mean, with Josh Allen and what he did and Gabriel Davis, the defense was a huge letdown for Buffalo, and really just their Achilles heel in that game, just not being able to get the job done, especially in the last 13 seconds. And then you get into overtime, and then you can't even give Josh Allen a chance to get the ball to come back and win the game. That's the toughest part for me, just seeing, the Bills offense, whether it be Josh Allen or Gabriel Davis, plays so well and then just come up short like that. I'm not personally a Bills fan, but it just crushed me to see it.
And it's tough when you look at their defense because is there a clear solution? This is one of the best regular season defenses in all of football. They played great defense basically all year, even after losing Tre'Davious White. And then, but you look at it in that game and it's like, listen, you talk about the OT rules, but Mahomes only had the ball for 13 seconds and he let them get basically 50 yards. And then over time, it was pretty obvious that the Bills defense wasn't going to do anything to stop them. And I think that's a big concern, that this is a really talented offense, but this year especially, I thought the bright spot of the Bills was their defense, and just completely disappeared in this game. That's a little scary if you're a Bills fan.
I want to bring up this overtime rules. That was the big talk after the game, that Josh Allen got cheated, shouldn't have got the ball. And I have a pretty strong opinion on why I actually like the overtime rules. But I just feel like this defense, if you give up a field goal in 13 seconds and whatever, you don't win the coin toss to OT, you deserve it. I'm sorry. Like, if you're giving up points in 13 seconds, and I know it's Patrick Mahomes, and yes, he's a bad man, but I mean, that's really unspeakable. This defense is a top 5 defense, Lou, as you said. And I feel for Josh Allen, and people were making the joke that the only thing maybe he could have done was call heads instead of tails. But like, to me, if you can't stop an offense for 13 seconds, or, you can't stop an offense really period in the final 2 minutes, sometimes you don't deserve to get the ball. Because what was this game going to go till it was, an hour, 2 hours longer, where these guys were scoring back and forth? Then you can't do that. And when you can go right down the field and score, I think in OT, it shows that, look, sometimes that's the way it should be. When you get to OT, I feel like sometimes you shouldn't let the game get to OT if that's the reason the game's going to end. And man, I do feel for Josh Allen, because, if they got the ball first, they probably would have scored. But it's just that defense, I think, let him down, not the overtime rules.
Oh, well, no, I agree. But I do have to say the overtime rules, I think they could be modified a little bit. I mean, believe me, I understand the argument that, football is a team game, and, it's not just all about the offense, about the defense too. And yes, the Bills defense had a chance to get a stop on the drive in overtime, and they couldn't do it. And they had a chance in the last 13 seconds of regulation, and they couldn't do it. So obviously the Bills defense is an equal part to the team and let them down. But there's just something that feels so wrong about, the Bills offense not getting a chance to answer. And that's really what kind of sticks out to me. We can talk about college rules, but in college, the offense gets to match whatever the opposing offense does. And I think that's really kind of how it should be in some way. I don't know how you want to do it. I don't know if you want to play a whole 5th quarter. I don't know if you just do college rules at all, but I just think that the Bills should have had a chance to match the Chiefs touchdown on that drive. I think there's some way where the offense has to come out and be able to match it. I get the argument for keeping them the same rules as it is, but I think it would be more exciting and more fair if, the other Bills offense had a chance to win that game.
Yeah, it just kind of feels just like a letdown. It's like you have this back and forth matchup, especially those last 2 minutes. It's like Mahomes and Allen, they're going back and forth. And it just feels something so wrong about just seeing Josh Allen sit on the sideline with absolutely no control over what happens in overtime. And I don't think this is like the first time we've seen it. I think it was a few years ago that I think that Chiefs-Pats game
happens to Mahomes.
Exact same thing. Yeah.
Mahomes, I think that was Mahomes' MVP year when he burst onto the scene. So I just think you get these great playoff matchups, and it just feels so weird to have it end whichever quarterback gets the ball first. It's kind of like that could be it. I mean, that's what makes overtime so dangerous. So part of the allure of overtime is so much emphasis put on who wins the toss, who gets the ball first. It adds so much to, if your defense can get a stop, that's huge. Then you only need a field goal. So I think there are aspects of the overtime rule that I personally, I'm not sure that I would switch it just yet, because I think it is a really cool part of the sport that if you get the ball first, you can score and the game's over. But it does, you get a game like that, and you kind of feel bad that Josh Allen didn't have a chance to at least tie it up.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I just don't know so let's just say you give the other team to score a touchdown and they score a touchdown, and we just playing. Then what happens then? Are we just going to go back and forth until you have to stop? Because I don't know. Like, to be honest with you, especially the way these defenses were just gassed. So you just saw it, they were gassed.
Yeah.
When is this game going to end? Because you can do the college thing where, like, now don't they do like just like it's like a one play thing? Then that happened, I think, a few times. That then is even like, do you want a game to be decided on that? It's like, it's one of those weird things.
That's almost like the NHL shootout stuff that like they
which I would not like in
the playoffs.
Yeah, exactly.